class, I want to show you how to paint cherry blossoms. So I live in Taiwan, and usually our cherry blossom season starts from about February up until late March. So I decided to do this quick project because I know that pretty soon, around about from April, you won't be seeing cherry blossoms. Now, you get different, just for a fun fact, you get different colors of cherry blossoms. You get light pink, you get kind of like a maroon color, and you also get yellow. So today we're going to be focusing on the pink. Now, for today's class, you have to start your setup. The first things first, make sure that you have a clean tabletop surface, okay? You can, of course, put paper on there or newspaper or any kind of cover if you don't want to mess on your table. Now, I like to use this table. It's quite comfortable. I can wipe from it. It doesn't matter. Now, your setup, you can start with your canvas. Okay, so this is your canvas. So you can choose any size that you want. I'm going to choose a very small size. This is about an A4 size. You get two kinds of canvases. You get a canvas board, which looks like this one. So if I turn it around this way, it's flat. As you can see, it has no wood frame there. This one is slightly cheaper than the other one. Now, most people like to use this one. Okay. As you can see, it has a frame at the back and it's been stapled. This one is easier, it's handmade, it's ready. You can buy it at shops. Sometimes it costs a little bit more, but the nice thing about this is you can use these corners to hang your picture afterwards. You don't need to use a frame. So that's the awesome part. Now, to get started, the first thing you want to do is, if your canvas is not clean, like this one part over here, you might want to use something called gesso. So have a look at that. So gesso is basically a kind of like a primer. It's basically a painting ground. Now, it does look a lot like acrylic paint when you open it, okay? The difference with this is it acts as a primer. You get two colors of gesso. You get black and then you get white. Those are the ones that I know of. One thing I want to mention, when you're using gesso paint, please treat it like nail polish. I say that because a lot of the times when I have a student who paints on their canvas and they want to paint a second or third layer, they will often forget to wait for the top coat to dry. So what you want to do is, when you use gesso paint, you paint one layer, wait for it to dry, and then paint the next layer, wait for it to dry. You can, of course, do that in a hurry, but I wouldn't suggest that, because what happens, the layer underneath will crack. This is especially the case with using a canvas board or piece of wood. It doesn't happen so much when you use an actual canvas like this. So, just something that you need to know. Okay, to get started on our setup, I'm going to be using acrylics. Okay, so there we go. Now, I'm not going to endorse this brand. This is an acrylic brand. Okay, you can use any kind of acrylic type of product paint that you want. This is just something that I like to use because it's nice and big. Some people like to use oil paint. You can use oil paint. Oil paint does take longer to dry. So that's in between layers. So that's why a lot of people prefer acrylic. Now, something very important that I want to mention to you as well, and this is something that I will keep reminding you as you paint. This is quite a common mistake with a lot of people who start to paint. I actually learned the hard way because I have a studio and I was a student before. When you use acrylic paint, it's very important that you actually place acrylic paint into a tray like this. Now, please do not use a watercolor tray. And I say this because what happens when you pour acrylic here, or put acrylic here, it hardens and it's not easy to wash. The second reason why you don't want to use an actual mixing tray for acrylic, when you wash the acrylic down the drain, what happens, or down your sink, it blocks it. It basically becomes like plastic. So when this dries, it's hard like plastic, which is not a good idea for your drain. So this is often the reason why artists do not put acrylic paint onto a proper watercolor container or any kind of container. Now this is a container, yes, but it's actually kind of like what you would call, you know, one of those meat trays or plastic trays. This is something that you can dispose of. You can also use lunch wrap, or I would call it wax paper, to place your acrylic on that. Please keep in mind, if you still want to use acrylic, I will show you how to preserve that. Now, so you're going to have your tray, and you're going to have your paints in acrylic. Now the next thing that you want to have is a cloth. Okay, this is a dingy cloth, sorry. You can use tissue paper or you can use paper towel, but for the sake of environment, I want to save up on tissue paper, so I use a cloth like this. Now, so another observation that I would make, if you are right-handed, it's a good idea to keep all your paints and your water cup onto the right side of where you paint. If you're left-handed, you might want to keep it on this side. Okay. The reason for that is I've seen this quite a lot. Sometimes when a student keeps their cup onto the left side, let's say they're going to do it here, you can see it, okay, and they're right-handed, they'll go over like this to wash their brush and blop, 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 mistake. Okay. So you don't want to do that. If you're left-handed, of course, you want to keep your paints in this area and you want to keep your water cup in this area. If you're right-handed, you want to keep it here. Okay, there, your paint on this side and your water cup on this side. You do not want to go across like that. I've seen that many times. A lot of the time someone put it across, and then once they dip their brush here, kind of like this, show you here, okay, like that, and then sorry. So good idea to keep it on the side that you paint. So right-handed, keep your things right side. Left-handed, keep your things left side. So that's one basic tiny point. Okay, now, so let's get started. So what I want to start with is the background. So I'm going to put this here. So I'm going to use something called titanium white. Now there are two kinds of acrylics, or actually three, but the two basic ones that artists use, titanium white and zinc white. Now, titanium white, it's kind of like a solid color. It's opaque, it's not transparent. So you want to use this when you want to paint clouds or something solid. Zinc white, it's basically used when you want to paint something that's see-through, like a wine glass or glass. So today we're going to use titanium white, okay, with this color here. And I want to use a pastel blue or light blue color, okay. And we're going to use this one. It's a kind of pink or rose magenta color. Okay, that one. And we're going to use this one, which is a magenta color. Oh, hang on. Yeah, magenta. So these are the three colors. And I'm also going to be using a bit of yellow. Okay, so once you have your setup ready, oh, and red, sorry. The red that I'm using here, it is just basically a red like color. Now, so to get started, get your canvas ready. So we're going to put it in a vertical position. That means long side. So you may want to look at a few reference images of cherry blossoms, or you can take your own photograph. So I took my own photograph and I'm going to be using that. You cannot see that on the screen. I will be sharing that with you later. Okay, so first things first, you want to get your painting started. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to start getting my colors ready. So I'm going to use white, just put that here. I'm going to be using this color. So we're going to paint the background first. So I'm going to take these. Okay, you can scoop it out with your paintbrush. Okay, might get a little bit messy. Okay. Have a look. Okay, there you go. Now, to get everything ready, let's move it onto the side. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to keep everything on the right side. Oh, another thing, you also don't want to put your brush standing up like that. You can always wipe it here. So when you want to clean it, what you want to do is you want to dip, dip, dip. Okay, and then you want to wipe off the excess paint like that. And if it's a brush you're not using, you want to put it on the side like that. So let's get started. I'm going to move my tray and my water cup to the right side. Okay, so now you're going to start off with the background. Now, a lot of people, especially beginners, they like to draw on the canvas with pencil. You can do that. I'm not going to say no to it. That's a preference of choice. I myself was taught to use paint to draw with. So basically you start off directly with paint. Sometimes we would start off with yellow, especially if you're doing a still life or if you're doing, you know, a portrait or whatever. It's a nice light color, and we use the brush to actually paint with. But this time we're not going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start mixing my paint here. So basically, just to show you, you want to make like a light blue color. So now for our sky, just an observation. So the top part of our canvas is going to be dark and it's going to move to light. So we're going to start off with this. So you want to mix your paint and you want to kind of do that. So you want to paint with strokes left to right, or if you're left-handed, right to left, right to left. Okay, so we're going to start off, I'm going to move it down for you so you can see, painting it like that. Okay, so you're going to move all the way down. Let's paint the whole canvas. Okay, so if you need more color, just add more color. One thing about acrylic, you don't really need to add a lot of water to it. I would usually tell someone there is water in it already, and we only use the water to basically clean with. So just move this up here so you can see my stuff, what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so paint that and go down. If you don't have enough blue, you can add more blue. So what I'm going to do for the first coat, I'm just going to paint one whole color. Okay. You may mix a lot of color here. Okay, so this is not perfect. So you want to create dark to light or light to dark. So basically up top there it's going to be darker and then it's going to move to lighter. So of course I want to add more blue paint. So before I do that, wash my brush. Okay, and there, check no color, great. So get another kind of blue and you're gonna kind of add it here. So just to show you what my palette looks like, okay, I'm gonna start off with the color that comes from the container. I'm gonna start off here from the top so you can see it again. Oh, sorry. So from the top, okay. And as you go down, you take a bit of white. Okay, you can actually mix this on the canvas. So you can take a bit of white as you go down. Okay, makes it a bit more squeeze. Excess paint on here, sorry. And as you go, again, more white. Okay. Try to cover as many spots as you can. So this is going to be your background and your sky. Add more white. Go up and down, add more white. keep adding white to make it lighter. So to give it a tonal variation, when we talk about tonal variation, we talk about how one color goes from dark to light. So to give you an example, you would have blacks, goes from black to gray to white. So it's taking one color and you're getting different shades. It's kind of like when you go into a shop and when you see a lot of TVs next to each other, you will notice that each TV screen or LCD panel is slightly different. Even though they have the same image, the color output or the color on the screen is slightly different. That's what we talk about tonal variation. So this is taking light blue and going from dark to light. Okay, now, and now that you have your background ready. Okay, good. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to start painting in my tree, my branches. Now we're not going to paint a whole tree. So you may have noticed I did not have any black paint or any brown paint. So you can of course use black paint or brown paint. However, if you don't have that, one easy thing is you can take all your colors and you can mix them together to make like one dark color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, okay, let me show you, move this onto the side. Okay, and I'm going to take my palette or my tray, don't know what you want to call it, and I'm basically going to take all kinds of colors. By the way, you need to make sure that your brush is kind of clean. At this stage, you're welcome to get up and change to clean water or fresh water. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use the same, trying to save some water. So now I'm just going to scoop some yellow paint. If you don't want to put your brush in here, you can use a plastic knife or a palette knife. I'm lazy today, so I'm not going to do that. Now, so I want to get a bit of yellow in here. So, okay, and I want to change my color. So I also want to get a bit of red. Okay, so wipe that up there. Notice, see? So I want to get a bit of red, grab it this side. Let's take some red. Okay. Okay, make sure your brush is clean. Top on your cloth. And you can grab some red. Just put it here. So you'll notice I have the primary colors here. Okay, it's red, yellow, and blue. But you can use any colors to make brown. Put this here. Okay, and then I want to get like, so now to make brown, just easy, you take a bit of each color. Okay, and you basically mix it together. There you go. So you don't need to buy black or brown unless you want to make something very specific. Then you can buy brown paint. If you don't have brown paint on hand, simply just use this. Okay, so I want to make it a little bit darker. So I'm actually going to add another color, kind of blue. So there we go. Take my blue again. Okay, this blue might be a bit too light. Of course, you can add black if you want to. I'm not going to do that. And mix it with blue. So this is kind of a bluish color. It's not what I want. I want to have a more brown color, kind of like chocolate. Cadbury's chocolate. So I'm going to take my paint this side. Notice I keep everything on the right side. So yeah, it's kind of a purpley color. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm not happy with this color, so I want to use another kind of blue. Okay, you will notice that I used a different kind of blue. This blue that I took out was an ultramarine blue, and it's right there. So I'm going to use that color to make it a bit darker, to give it a more brown black color. So I want to mix it. The thing with painting, when you learn to mix colors, it can be very frustrating to get the exact color, especially when you carry on with it. But it just takes practice and practice and practice, and basically trial and error. And this is one way that you actually learn, is by using only a few colors that you have. and learning how to mix it. Okay, so now I want to add more red. Okay, this actually looks like more like a brown here. Okay, so now we're ready to paint parts of our tree and our branches. So I'm going to move this to the side again so I can have space here on the other side. Okay, so there we go. And now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my painting. And so the top, as you can see, it's going to be dark white, and the white part is towards your stomach. So now we're going to paint wet on wet. Of course, you can, if you want to, you can wait for this to dry. If you are in a hurry, you can use a hairdryer to dry it. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to paint wet on wet. So basically, when you start, okay, it might become like a lighter color. So what you want to do is kind of use, oh, okay, this is not going to work well. Hold on a second. Okay. All right. This is actually coming out a lot lighter than I thought. So, there we go. Okay, so when you paint trees or branches, when you want to get to like this part, you can change the angle of your brush to a very thin part. Wow, this is very, very wet. Should have probably waited. So what I want to do is I want to paint, get more colors. Okay, you can use a bigger brush. Okay, kind of do that, like that. As you notice, the flat part, the bottom part here, this part, when I'm painting a bigger surface, it's flat. When I want to paint or go from large to small, I would lift my brush up, kind of like a ballerina dance, and kind of go like that. So you've got colors kind of like that, like that. Okay, so you want to give yourself some branches. Okay, this is looking very purple. It's not even looking brown yet. Okay, so just give it a few branches like that. All right, now, so I want to use a smaller brush. Okay, so I'm going to clean this brush, put this brush aside, and then I'm going to use, okay, you can use a size 8. There we go, size 8. And I'm going to do the same thing, dip it a bit, and get more like a brownish color. Okay. Okay, so if you look here, it's slightly more purple. So I want to add maybe a red color. So clean that. Sort of give it, oh, sticky. And maybe more yellow. There we go. Okay, now it's looking green, so I want to add more red. So let's add more red. Okay. Keep mixing it till you're happy with like a brownish color. And if you're lazy, you can just use black and blue or actual brown. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is start again. Okay. So this is still slightly wet. So now I'm going to start painting the thin branches here. Okay. Okay. Now, still wondering if I should use a hairdryer or not. Okay, so to dry this. Paint more. Okay, so when you paint your tree here, you want to give it like short strokes, like that. Okay, so when you get to the top, I'm not going to worry too much about that. So you can paint one side. Now you'll notice the side is very light and dark here. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on painting the cherry blossoms onto this area here. So, okay, so if you're not happy with this part, you can, of course, try this. Now, what I'm going to do is, before I start onto the next color, I want to change my water and I want to make sure that my brushes are clean before I do the next step. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to start painting the actual cherry blossoms. So I'm going to be using the following colors. I'm going to be using, this one is called, I don't know, China Rose, which is actually a pink, but you can use a pink color. And I'm going to be using a magenta color. And I'll be using some red, and I'll be using some titanium white. Okay, so I'm going to put this all in my palette, so I'm going to move this to the side. So notice I'm not changing my palette. I'm going to use the same one. It doesn't matter. Don't waste. Okay, so I'm going to start off with putting my pink on here. Okay, let's get that started. What you want to do is you want to get your colors onto your tray or your palette or your wax paper, whatever you use, onto here first. Okay, so yeah. Darker one, and I want to use some red. Okay, oh wait, before I do that, I want to get some white. Okay, put that there, and I want to get some red. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. Put that, let me go over here. Okay. All right, done. So this is what's in my tray, palette, I don't want to call it. Okay, now let's get ready, keep everything, remember again, if you're right-handed, right side, left-handed, left-handed side. So what we're going to start with, I'm going to be starting with painting the cherry blossom. Now, of course, you can look at an image, or you can find some images on Pinterest, collect them, or you can use an image from your own photographs or one of your own photographs for observation. So, okay, so one of the things I want to notice, you'll notice that it's light on this side and dark on this side. So what we're going to do, I want to start off with a base color. So I'm going to put this here. So I'm going to start mixing, like, just to show you, my pink color here. So let's do that straight from the bottle. Okay, and you want to give it kind of like a soft look. It's kind of like fluffy, almost like fur. When you're driving along the road, or when you see cherry blossoms from a distance, it kind of looks very fluffy, almost like a pom-pom ball or like a ball of fur. So you want to kind of start dabbing it. So what I'm doing here is I'm painting wet on wet. Okay, so I'm going to start dabbing onto here. Okay, starting each point. Okay, doesn't matter if the white mixes with it, that's the whole point. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to start painting, okay, this side, the tops, tree tops, the top part. Okay, so you want to go around kind of each branch. Okay, so you kind of want to make it different. Okay, so each outlet branch here. Okay, so there we go. Kind of do that. I want to paint one maybe here. At this point, it's always a good observation to kind of look around. Okay. So you notice I'm dabbing it. I kind of just dab it. Okay. To give it that sort of textured, fluffy look. Okay. So there you go, that's the base. So now at this point you can decide if you want to add more or add more. You can add more branches or you could add more of these cherry blossoms. Okay, so kind of do that. Okay, paint there, paint there. Maybe I want to go up to the top here a little bit because I don't want to see the blue so much. Okay, might mix up a bit. Okay. All right, okay. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking I want to do smaller branches. So I'm going to take my size 8 brush and I'm going to attempt to mix brown again. Let's see if I can get, okay, a brownish color. So I'm going to mix all my colors together basically. Let's see, show you here. Looks kind of chocolatey. Okay. There we go. A little bit better. So now you want to go over. So maybe I want to add smaller branches. Again, notice I'm not using the flat side. I'm holding my brush pointing up, kind of like a dancer. So you want to go like that to give it tiny branches. Okay. So, okay, the nice thing about when you do paint on paint, sometimes when you make a mistake, you can just paint over it. And it teaches you or forces you to do observation. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so I'm going to put that down, clean that, and go back to painting my flowers. So I'm going to use a size 20 brush, and I'm going to do that again. Just kind of go over here. Maybe I want to kind of do that. Okay. So make sure that you have like clusters. You can have a cluster there, cluster there, cluster there. You don't want to have like a whole bunch. Just make it look more interesting. You can put a bit here and some there. So I'm going to go back to these. Okay. So the top is kind of worrying me a little bit. I really want to cover that a little bit more. So here you can kind of go out a little bit. Okay, and I think that is done. So at this point it looks kind of finished, but you want to add a lighter color. So you can either do one of the following. At this point you can wait for your layer to dry. If you're in a hurry, you can use a hairdryer to dry it. Or you can just paint wet on wet. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a lighter color. So I took a bit of this pink and I'm going to mix these colors. So it's kind of like a light pink color there. I'm going to show you that. And so now, because the light's coming from this side, right hand side, you might want to do that. Just go on the sides. Okay. At this point it's mixing. Can't really see any difference. So basically I'm going to do that again. Show you the top. So the top part is also kind of light. If you're thinking of midday or noon, the sun would be coming from the top. So basically it'll be light here and light there. Again, give it tonal variation, dark to light. So you might want to, struggling to see here a little bit. So I'm just having a little bit of fun here. I'm not really looking at my picture, I'm just kind of making observations on my own. Okay. Keep adding white to your color. Like that. You'll notice my brush has different colors. Okay, so at this point, maybe if you want to go lighter, you can use a smaller brush and a cleaner brush. I'm going to clean this brush, and I'm going to use this one. Okay, there we go. Let's see what happens, the difference. I'm using my size 8 brush, and I'm just going to paint the white top. This point is kind of mixing, so you kind of want to dab it. Okay. Again, remember the light's coming from the top, so you kind of want to do that. Okay, I think that looks just about done. So now the bottom part, like I'm going to show you the side, the bottom part here, you want to make that darker. So you're going to look at, I'm thinking you could mix it with your magenta color, which is the darker pink here, or you can even use red if you want to. And I'm going to sort of see what happens if I do that. Let's see straight out of the bottle. I'm still using my size 8 brush. Okay, so now I've already painted the top. So now I want to get to the shape, the bottom. Just use my magenta color. Again, this is just not a detailed painting. This is just something that you could do for fun. Of course, if you want more detailed, you can spend more time. I'm just having a little bit of fun here. I'm not really observing as much. That'll take a longer time. Up to you. This is just something easy, basic and fun. Okay. So I'm going to do this here. So here you want to make it a little bit more darker this side. So kind of do that. Okay. Okay. Looks a bit very fluffy now. Looking at this, I'm still kind of not happy with the dark. I really want to go darker at the bottom. So I'm thinking I should add or make a purple color. So I'm going to take a bit of this and I'm going to take a bit of this, mix it anyway, blue, just kind of give it a purplish color. So there you go. Okay, so let's see what happens if we do purple. So again, I'm not going to touch the top, I'm just going to go to the bottom. Okay, so you notice that some cherry blossoms, they'll have like a center in the middle. So I'm thinking that would actually look better if I do this. Let's see what happens if I do that. So I want to kind of give it dot here, or maybe not. Hang on. So let's see what happens. Just a tiny bit at the bottom. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing the purple. Let's do that first. Tiny, tiny bit, not too much. you want to paint the side here, here. Okay. Now I really want to kind of go into this area. Kind of here. Paint blue. Okay, that doesn't even look like a cherry blossom at all. Yikes. Okay, so that's basically what it looks like now. So I want to go back to the light part, or just use pink. So I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to go back to making the top lighter. Let's go back to that. See what happens. So now I'm going to go a little bit outside. There. Okay. Okay, the thing is, you have to be careful about doing this too much, otherwise it's going to look slightly okay. So this part doesn't look like anything like a cherry blossom, so I want to kind of fix that here and here. Just kind of do that. Let me see. Okay, you want to make like tiny leaves somewhere. Okay. Alright, I think that looks about done. So now I want to focus on kind of like the dark area. Some flowers have like a dark center in the middle. Particularly the image that I'm using has that. Some don't. So I'm going to use like, let's see, mix a dark color here. Ah, this is too white. Grab some yellow, more blue. Okay, now, so I just want to put like a tiny little dot or dab. You can of course use an earbud, a toothpick, or okay. Because I'm painting wet on wet, it's not very clear, so that's what it looks like. So here, find a center. There, and there, and there. Okay, so now I want to go back to my tree. My tree part here and my branches, I'm still not happy about that. So, of course, you can mix more brown color, red, more red, purples, yellows, whatever color you want. See, going here. So I'm just having fun again, mixing my colors here. Now, okay, I'm gonna go back to that. Aha. So this basically dried a little bit. So now I can go back to that. Paint on it. If you want, you can create patterns. Okay. You can turn the back of your brush, this part, and you can Up to you, you can sort of scratch lines. So you want to create texture. Okay. So kind of do that. You don't have to do that if you're not happy. Just easy, go with your brush like that again. Erase it. Okay. It's best to do this when this is kind of wet. If it's dry, it doesn't work as well. Okay, so now I want to go back into these areas here. So I'm going to take a bit of color, reds, browns, mix them. Okay. Okay. So let's have a look. Okay, and almost done. Scratch some lines. Okay, I think for now this looks just about done. Maybe I want to add a few highlights. Okay. Or underneath here, under here, make it darker. So let's see what that would look like. Okay, the thing with painting is also trial and error, so you can kind of go underneath. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that. Maybe not so much. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I want to add just some highlights. I'm going to take white, just kind of dab it. Especially here. Okay, and I think we're just about done. So let's have a look at it. Easy, short painting, done. And there you have it. A very easy, simple cherry blossom painting.